Ulonka tabati yada to ye kuma daifa. Ino to ye ko je love baby pa. Oba tala, oba takutakun. Songo eshu, ogun oya osun. Kini sheshe, tan she nile yo. O jelo jara.
Alafia, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I'm your host, Orisha Bami, and we are back once again with another one of our tribe mothers and healers and representatives of the melanated queendom that we serve here in these Ashe streets. So with that, without further ado, welcome back to the program, Miss Millie Cruz-Reynoso, founder of Millagro Wellness Sanctuary in Tampa Bay, Florida, in the house. What's going on with you, Millie? How you doing?
Good. I'm doing. You know, the eclipse, a lot of the planetary alignments, it's forcing me to kind of be still, you know, so, but I'm doing really well. Other than that, thank you so much. And thank you for having me again on your show. I'm ever so grateful. Thank you.
Absolutely an honor and a pleasure, and I appreciate you for coming through, and I know I'm not the only one, so I'm gonna give gratitude and thanks for the rest of the tribe too, man. We definitely give thanks, you know, for you coming and doing what you do. And shout out to everybody who was in the last Patreon community call. I think you were in with us about maybe 2 weeks ago. Phenomenal call. That was dope. And then, you know, everybody who's already accustomed to the messages and the, you know, the knowledge and the wisdom that you drop, you know, when you come through and share your gifts with us. But first, before we get into, you know, the whole situation that's going on, not just in America, but around the globe, the puppet show, the clown show, the circus is it's full steam ahead right now. And this is something that you and I spoke about on a couple of the previous interviews, probably one of the first or second times that you were on here. We spoke about how many different things that you saw, you know, the downloads and the visions, the premonitions, all these things you were getting from spirit. And you were telling me, this was like 2-3 years ago, come 25, 26, 27, and here we are, here the flunks we are.
Absolutely. And you know how Facebook, you know, there's Facebook memories, right?
Yeah.
So when I think it was yesterday, I went onto Facebook, and one of the memories that I put up was something to the effect of, and I'm just going to say 40, 45.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we have 45 come into office, I don't understand. You know, I wrote something to the effect of, I don't understand why he's so popular. Doesn't this know this guy is dangerous? Like, if this guy goes into office, we're asked out. Excuse my English. That's exactly what I said. And I said that back in 2016.
Yeah. And it's happening. And you know, there's a lot of stuff at play that goes into it, a whole lot of stuff. And it's like, this is what, you know, this is what needed to happen. I feel like this is what needed to happen in order for the process to be as the process should be, which is organic and natural. You know, the laws of Ma'at, you know, is truth, you know, justice, reciprocity, balance, you know, all those good things, man. 42 laws of Ma'at, they're all manifesting, coming into play. And it's like, we see it now more than ever. And there's so much, like I said, that I want to get into. I know our time is limited, so I'm going to do the best I can to maximize bringing in the world's environment and situations into tonight's topic of conversation, which is the psychic attunement after the eclipse. So, you know, you and I spoke briefly before we came on air, and then briefly when we were setting this call up, in regards to the energy levels and how the draining of energy, the draining of, you know, just clarity, a lot of focus, like a lot of things are foggy, and you know, it's a lot going on for a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people. So it's like, I know you and I aren't alone. That's something that we spoke about too before we came on here. So when it comes to, let's just go with the eclipse, because we were speaking about the significance of astrological charts and astrology and how that plays into what we're dealing with right now. Shout out to OJ Yemi. I'm looking forward to having her back on next week. She came and dropped some jewels on me, I think yesterday, her and Stone. So I'm definitely looking to get back with them. But that was the topic of discussion, and they both enlightened me to a lot of powerful information. So with that, when it comes to your, you know, knowledge and your experience with astrology, but not just astrology, with the healing, with Reiki and, you know, attunements, alignments, psychic abilities and gifts, things of that nature, how does this past solar eclipse impact where we are now, as far as like with the globe?
Well, you know, I I don't think of it as like drama. I think of it as a collapse that must happen. Remember, everything has a karmic residue. And in order for the collapse to happen, there's a lot of things that must surface in order to be healed. Kind of like physical dis-ease, you receive some of the symptoms of the physical dis-ease. And, if you don't take care of those symptoms, it'll, and, mind you, the eclipse has gotten me foggy, but it's like, it'll, my words, if you don't take care of the physical dis-ease, it'll increase more and more. And, to the point where it becomes either very painful or disorienting, and once it gets to that point, that's where you have to address the issue. And that's where I like to call the psychic surgery happen. So I always think of it's a recalibration. Okay. The eclipse is a moment, when the light is temporarily obscured. And symbolically, that feels like, those seasons in life where clarity gets interrupted, when something we thought also, part of that, when something we thought was solid, like we thought the United States was solid, but not only the world, we thought the world at some capacity was solid. But, and then, I always say our personal lives mirror the collective.
Yeah.
So even personal lives will think certain things are solid. You know what I mean? And, suddenly everything feels uncertain because everything's coming to surface, right? And then, what I've noticed in myself, in my students, and my clients is that eclipses, it seems like it's creating chaos, but they reveal the misalignment. And they expose what we are tolerating.
Yeah. It reminds me of that song. I don't know. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it reminded me of that song. I'm sure you remember because you're a music fan and you're from the city. But you remember that song by Heavy D and the Boys? We are lost in the storm and don't know what to do. I feel like right now we just got found. We're finding ourselves again in the cosmic. What used to be a cosmic storm is now kind of like it's yeah oh yeah and what's the sister name from the comedic that Pantheon reminds me of her Sekhmet. Like they're bringing that warrior feminine natural disaster storm, shake shit up, let's get it out of here so we can replenish, and bring the new cycle, the new system in. And so I feel like that's what we're seeing right now with everything that's happening.
And I like to say, I like that, and I also would like to piggyback off of that we're having contractions. We're in labor.
Yes.
We're in labor. And when obviously when you're in labor, it's the most painful thing that you experience, but there is a subconscious knowing that this is all part of the process, is the pain.
And
that when you birth a new child, which in our case is the new world, a new alignment, you'll remember there was pain, but you won't remember the actual pain itself once you surpass that.
That's facts though. And I feel like I've been through that with literally every single project that I've ever set sail to, try to achieve or accomplish. Every single one, from the very first book I ever wrote to the very first speaking engagement to the, you know what I mean? Like it's just been so it's been some certain things, spiritual, things that we were doing, over the last 6 months or so, that some of them it took weeks or months to get together because of so many different things that seemed like they were out of whack. But then you and I could both testify that the day when, some of these things took place, the alignments and the representation of nature, and not just nature, but dreams and visions and meditations and premonitions all came full circle to make sure that all parties involved, we all had a true divine alignment with the premonitions, the visions, the experiences that we had leading up into. And so we all kind of had our own story that we brought, you know, when we met, and was like, yo, this was definitely destined to happen today. Like, there's no way, shape, form, or fashion it could have happened any other way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, this whole experience is meant to disrupt the patterns, you know, that we, and really create a revelation of the patterns that we actually outgrew, you know, and when you outgrow a pattern, at first it is painful because it could be very confusing.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't have a support system to explain, hey, this is all part of the process of change, then you can easily fall into misalignment, into depression and things like that. But the beauty about our intelligence, meaning our physical intelligence, our spiritual intelligence, there is those nudges letting you know that this is all part of the process. It's the mind that always likes to be like, but what if it's not? Right?
Yeah.
So, but you know, after that disruption, the nervous system has to reorganize. It's all part of it. It has to reorganize. And that's where the attunement comes in. You know, your psychic attunement isn't about, you know, your innate, your innate navigation system. You know, it's not about becoming more psychic. It's about learning to trust in your divine wisdom. And I teach about the clairs, you know, which is clairvoyance, clairaudience, and so on and so forth, which is clear. So now those things come to surface that help you navigate life. I always tell people that as of 2020, you know, we entered a season of within, no longer without, right? We use the without as the left brain, the logical, logistical stuff that we need to understand. But we have to utilize that in conjunction or in balance with the right brain or with our inner GPS system, you know, so.
Yeah, no, that's facts. And shout out to New to Haven. We are in the Eclipse portal. 14 days to go from the new to the full moon and vice versa. Just had a solar eclipse on the new moon of February 17th. 14 days later, we have a lunar eclipse on March 3rd during a full moon. So that, I mean, that right there, listen. And then eclipses only occur during new or full moon. Appreciate you, New to.
Thank you, New to Haven. That makes me want to stay under my covers with my thumb in my mouth.
Listen, Linda, listen. And that's a real thing, though. I'm telling you, because I've been fighting. I'm talking about public enemy fight the power, you know, to get up and have them get things done, because it's been a lot. It's been heavy. It's been real heavy. But, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with the nature thing, with like the giving birth, because it is in a form of essence to me, like the contractions of pain. I shared that story before a while back, and I was like, you know, if I think it was during a consultation, a divination consultation, but it was like giving birth to anything, whether it's an idea, whether it's a business, whether, you know, it's whatever, a child, like all of it's painful. But the way that the message came from spirit during that consultation was like, yes, it was painful, but how fast did that pain go away, and how good did it feel the first time you kissed that baby? Like when they gave you the baby and you were holding the baby after they cut the cord and you got him or her swaddled up and you look down and you kiss that, I think all that pain goes out the window, because now you're looking it's like looking into eternity, because you're seeing the life force, you know, just going through the cycle of heaven, you know, the cycle of infinity, I should say.
It's like, you know, any kind of loss is painful.
Yeah.
You know, any kind of transformation and change is painful, you know, or chaotic. I would like to know if anyone has ever had a smooth transition that didn't involve some kind of chaos, you know. But once, you know, once everything is complete, you know, you remember there was chaos, but you don't remember the actual chaos, the feelings of the chaos, the emotional, because you've bypassed that. And so that becomes a death. You know, my guides are showing me the death card, which is transformation and change. So, you know, when the death card comes out, it represents, you know, it's no longer part of it's part of your history, but it's no longer part of your I guess your existence the way they're saying it. So
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm talking, I'm channeling too. So yeah.
Well, look, that's why we look. So, matter of fact, to me, that's the spirit telling me it's time to jump into the conversation because
No, you're okay.
That's a sign. No, that's a sign. It's funny. I forgot who I was talking to, but there's a like when we're doing divination with the coconut shells. There's a story that says if you're doing, usually we use the 4 shells, you know, and there's a pattern that they fall in order for us to get the yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
That's right. So there's a story that if you're getting ready to do them, as you're doing your opening, whether you're pouring the water, you're saying Omi Tutu, you know, whatever your process is, I go, I be, listen, Obi, listen, Obi, listen, whatever your process is, before you get ready to do it, if one of the shells falls down and it lands up, that means yes. As she was answering your question, like, yeah, I'm busy doing other stuff. The answer to your question is yes. Go ahead, keep it pushing. Keep it pushing. I feel like that's kind of like where we at now, or like all the stuff that's going on. Like, yes, this is the rebirth. This is the, you know, the bringing about of the new Aquarian age and the new world, you know, as we know it, and it's here.
Yeah, and you know, the energy this eclipse energy can feel extremely loud. It can feel so emotional, activated. And what I always tell people that, you know, if it feels heavy, there's an upgrade that's going on within your system. You're upgrading it. Yeah. You're upgrading. It's kind of like, you know, when you're healing, you know, for lack of a better word, and I wish I could come up with something, you know, that's better, but it's almost like the discomfort is a celebration. Yeah. Because it's knowing that, you know, you're detoxing, you know, mind, body, spirit wise, anything that no longer should be isn't right. Exactly. That shouldn't be in resonance with you, you know, but after it passes, then there's the quiet, and that quiet is important. It's a you know, it's a reassessment of how far you've come along, you know, and allowing that gratitude, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. And to get into it, because I'm sure a lot of people want to know a lot of these, a lot about these clairs. So when we talk about the clairs, we're talking about clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. You know, there's what, 6 or 7 of them, I believe that there are.
There's a lot. You know, there's a lot, but the most popular one is clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance. And then some of the other one is clairgustance, which is smelling, clear smelling, and then there's clear tasting. You know, sometimes when you taste, you know, a lot of healers can taste the you know, the sickness or the illness, or maybe if they have too much metals, you know, they'll taste metal. I know healers that can taste the disease. When I started, when I was a Reiki 1 practitioner, I was actually sharing this with my students yesterday. When I was a Reiki 1 practitioner, I used to smell, you know, rancid. It smelled like garbage. And I was so confused why I kept smelling garbage. I'm thinking, are they passing gas? You know, it kind of smelled like that. And so when I called a dear friend of mine, she told me that what I am smelling is the release of toxicity that was in their energy field.
Yeah, that's a real thing. And, you know, I've experienced that. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I'm pretty sure you have too. But there's times also whenever we have spirits around us, and most of the time if you smell them, it could be good, because I've had an experience literally in my living room a while back, and an elder called and confirmed that one for me. Shout out to Baba Elder Canty. So I remember that one. But then also we can have not so good spirits around us who don't have a pleasant smell. So the last one that I've had in occurrence was, I feel like it was one of my ancestors, because it was a pleasant, you know, smell of like beautiful perfume. So I'm pretty sure it was, you know, one of my grandmothers or aunties or somebody. But there was other times when I smelled a smell that smelled like sulfur, or like somebody passed some furious gas, you know what I mean? And I feel like those are times, and you can feel it too. I feel like depending on your level of your intuitive, you know, and what are your stronger clairs, I personally can feel when other energies around me. Even if I don't smell them, I can still feel it. And so it's like, that's a real thing too. So we gotta kind of differentiate between if we smell the bad stuff, or if we smell something, you know, that's fragrance, that's like, you know, like even like the sand in the Oshun Grove. I'll never forget, her sand smelled like a beautiful fragrance. I'm like, yo, you talk about magical. I'll never forget that. The sand smelled like it was full of nothing but beautiful perfume. Like, yo, this is crazy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just for the individual, the people that don't know what the clairs are, the word clair means clear. And so there's clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, clairaudience, which is clear hearing, clairsentience, which is clear feeling, and claircognizance, which is clear knowing. And these aren't just special gifts for the chosen few. We've all had them. And you can have either one that's more dominant or multiples that are dominant. Like for me, I am clairsentient and clairaudient. I hear spirit. So I can hear and sense and feel. And then speaking of like negative energy, I do energy healings every single day. And I've encountered people with attachments.
Yes.
And I feel the attachments, and what it feels like for me, I feel like a panic attack is coming. So I have to, ground. I typically ground and increase the light, my energy light, so I can work on this individual to remove those attachments, Yeah. So, but again, they're not, special gifts for the chosen few. Everyone has it. It's all about becoming aware of it, meaning just sitting down and really assessing, which, am I more of a dreamer? Do I have lots of dreams that are symbolic? Do I have the ability to see, spirit? And I don't mean when seeing spirit as a whole person, maybe blips of light. Can you see auras? Can you see colors around people? Can you hear spirit? Sometimes you can hear voices or hear your voice, even if you're not talking in your head. That's how it appears for me.
Yes.
Clear knowing, claircognizance is probably the most confusing one, because it's a thought that drops.
Yep.
It's just a thought, and or an idea or an inspiration that just drops. I call it a mail drop. So
that's funny. I call mine telepathic text, because that
part. Yeah. That part.
Yeah. Nah, it's powerful. And I feel like that's where, it's a beautiful thing, but it can be a challenging thing, especially if you haven't figured out the discernment of being able to determine which voice or which clair is which in regards to how it resonates with you. So like we're speaking in a private call, for me, I'm blessed and give gratitude because I think I've been able to figure out, I think it was on that call we were doing where I was able to figure out my top three in regards to like the three clairs I feel like are my strongest ones. But that comes back to childhood, man. I look back at, even as a little boy, there was times when I would hear that voice or I would get that download and I would do whatever it was telling me not to do anyway. And boom, every time it came back and bit me in the back. It came and bit me in the ass every time. So it's like, older I got, the more I would see the commonality or the alignment of making the right choice versus the wrong choice, the more I would start to believe in it. Or not even believe in it, because I knew it was right every time, but it was like I started to trust it more, or I started to at least be listening better, or being more obedient to it. And I tell people too, this is something that came during a consultation. It's like, I look at it like building our spiritual credit score. Like the more that we are able to take on from spirit and do the right thing with it and apply it and actualize it, crystallize it, manifest it, the more they're going to give us, because they know, okay, well, you've built your score to this point right here. So now let us give you this. And then, we'll give you some more. The more you continue to go up with being obedient to it, the more I've seen I feel like the score go up, and then the blessings come.
Yeah. And it really revolves around trust as well.
Yes.
Trust increases the volume, and I always, like in my classes, when I teach about the clairs, we don't only utilize it, during spiritual work, we utilize it when we're working. So as an example, marketing, if you're in marketing, you're using possibly clairvoyance because you're creating, the visuals that will, draw a specific audience in, or, you might be a car dealer, and you're using the art of clairsentience. You're sensing and feeling people's energies and their stories. So you naturally revolve around what cars they're looking for. Real estate agents are fabulous. I feel like they share, the clairvoyance with the clairsentience,
Yes.
when it comes to showing homes. And I'm talking about those who set aside ego.
Yes.
And they roll with their specific intuitive guidance, one of those clairs. So, even musicians, they use the art of clairaudience. They could hear the music before they write it down, or DJs, when they're DJing, they're mixing, they're hearing what they need to create the rhythm.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, no, honestly, I feel like all artists, can do that. Like, because I know for me, even like writing, if I'm writing like spoken word or some poetry or anything, really, I'll visualize. I paint pictures with words. That's how my gift works. So I'm able to layer my thought or whatever message I'm trying to convey. I'm able to layer it, like literally painting the message with words. And it's funny because people be always asking me about, because I always bring up songs whenever I'm telling stories or different songs, or I'll try to create a visual from like a movie or something that I know a lot of people have seen, to try to do my best to give all access and layers of clarity to kind of like the clairs. Literally, I try to get each one of the clairs that I can to put whatever vision that I'm trying to convey to the people together. And that's the way I feel like artists, for sure. I've seen, shout out to Benji Brown, one of the best, I'll never forget this, one of the best live comedic performances I've ever seen in my life was at the Improv in Tampa. And the brother Benji Brown ripped the roof off. I mean, when I tell you he burnt that damn arena down, I had never seen anything like this. And I've been blessed to see some of the best, from the Kevin Hart's, the Mike Epps's, I don't know if I've seen Chappelle a lot, but a lot of them.
I honestly believe they utilize the claircognizance. They
Whatever.
get those drops, just like freestylers. People who freestyle rap, or they do spoken word from here. Those are drops. That is claircognizance.
Oh my God, Millie! When I tell you he was pulling in from the universe, like I would have to even put that up there with some of the best like music artist performances, because he was in his zone. And the best way I would put it is like for basketball players, whoever seen the Kobe Bryant game when he hit for like 81 or whatever it was, he was in the zone. Or Reggie Miller when he came back for the Pacers, I think it was the Knicks. He came back and won with like 7 threes in less than 10 seconds, something crazy like that. It's like you in a whole nother zone, like Neo in the Matrix. You just slowing down. I'm like, he was killing it, like he couldn't miss. Like every joke.
And that's how you know someone is passionate, when they're exercising one of those clairs, even any of the clairs that I don't mention. That's how you know they're passionate about their craft, no matter what that craft is, outside of spirituality and within spirituality.
Yeah, because I don't think you can separate it. I think like once we are who we are. And
it's a spiritual thing still. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I did a little homework while we were chopping it up. So the top 4, what they consider is the ones we hit, which is the clairvoyance for clear seeing, the clairaudience for clear hearing, the clairsentience for feeling and sensing, and then the claircognizance for clear knowing, which we did already hit. And then the additional clairs, and I'm surprised I didn't have this one, but psychometry. That wasn't, I don't know if that's considered a clair.
Oh, psychometry.
Psychometry, yeah. Psychometry.
Yeah. So that is the ability, huh?
That's when you can hold something to somebody who's transitioning or missing or something, and you can pick up their vibrations or frequencies.
Well, it's energy imprints that you're sensing and feeling. So everything is recorded. When somebody's energy merges with an object, when somebody sits on a chair and then you sit in the chair, sometimes you get like a hint of their story. With my students, I use, yesterday I used an example that, there was me in a group of other ladies. I would say about 6 years ago, we went to Casadega. So Casadega is a spiritualist town that is right outside of Kissimmee, and only mediums and psychics live in that town. They literally have their own zip code. And so within that town, they have their own cemetery. So one of my friends decided, she's very, she's able to get impressions. She uses psychometry. So she placed her hand on top of one of the headstones that was, I believe, from the early 1900s or the late 1800s. And immediately her clairvoyance kicked in, and she saw them in the World War, in the plane, shooting other planes, and like saw the whole war, and then she just felt that it was a male, and I remember her feeling emotional because he has such a kind heart, and this wasn't something he wanted to do, you know. And it was just a whole story. It was just fascinating. And she laid down on top, kind of weird, I know, but she laid down on top of the cemetery just to, I feel like, to be with the energy, because he had such a powerful healing energy. But yes, you can get impressions. Sometimes when I do parties, I'll do psychometry just to do something different. I said, give me your ring and I'll just read who you are with your ring or a piece of jewelry, you know. You can also walk into a place and sense and feel the story. Haunted houses, you know, energy impressions, you know. So
no, that is a real thing. And speaking of which, not too long after my first ceremony going into Orisha, when I went to meet Obatala, I'll never forget, like, the first time I went to Ybor City, I damn near wanted to leave. If I didn't already have the tickets to the show, I would have left, because the energy was so crazy to me. Like, and I already could feel it. I think, you know, being an empath, we have you know, a level of being able to feel things, right? So, for example, of that, on the opposite end for me, I can't watch gruesome injuries. So, like, if somebody's playing football, if I'm watching football or basketball or anything, somebody gets hurt and it's like a bone break or something crazy, I can't watch it because I'll feel it. And like my body, like, I'll feel like the pain, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh shit. So I can't watch that stuff, man, because it'll do something to where, like, that part of get numb. It's weird, but it's a real thing. So it's like, nah, I ain't watching none of that. But
well, I always, like I told my students yesterday, if you're deaf, if you're there's another one that's called clairempathy, where the clairempathy is similar to clairsentience, but a lot more intense. So you sense and feel the emotion, the pain, all of that stuff as if it's your own. But if you, like, sense and feel like overwhelmed at any capacity, I always say, just say, thank you for the information, I release it.
I should. You know, I'm so glad you man, thank you for doing that, because shout out to I starred the notes, so there's a lot of people who left some dope comments. Kashita, Shade Tree Kisses. I got y'all's questions. I got them starred because y'all got some dope questions. Everybody got dope comments, questions, but I wanted to save y'all so we can really give it the runway for Millie to answer. But that was one of them, I think. It's like how to be able to tell the difference between them. But I'll go back and bring it up to the floor. But the way you just said that, like, when we feel stuff, and then, you know, how did you say it again? You feel it and you accept it.
Just say, thank you for the information, I release it. This was something that my guides told me years ago as a healer, because I would sense and feel their pain emotionally or physically. And sometimes it'll stay with me, like I can't go down the stairs, you know? And I'm like, why does my hip hurt? And so Spirit it told me, you're not releasing it. And just say, thank you for the information, I release it. You know, but it's also the same thing, just like you mentioned, and this is a lot of people. I always tell people that I'm still human, so I still go out to concerts and I'll go dancing, right? I love to go dancing, but what I do is I always ground myself. I ground myself daily. Grounding yourself is so important because it allows you to have a life. There's a lot of people that are so empathic that they feel like, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't go, you know, I want to see, you know, my sister in Thanksgiving, but I can't stand so-and-so because their energy is just too intense. Like, you could still have a life, but you're also that magical where you can block those things off. By stepping into what I like to call your own personal protective suit. So first thing in the morning, what you do is you imagine yourself stepping into your spacesuit and you zip yourself up. Imagination is creation. Imagination is creation. So when you zip yourself up, right? And with the intention, because remember, just don't do it just to do it. You create that intention that I'm doing this to block off any energies that are not in alignment with me, that is not for me. Okay. And, you know, it's funny because I have a client who she's a severe empath, and she's a real estate agent, but she's such an empath that she could feel everything. So I told her, you know, you need to, like, ground yourself and, you know, create a protective, your own little spacesuit. But what she's done is she imagined herself like her I forgot what her night, like a night. I forgot what she called it. It was something to the effect of a night, like a night suit. And she steps into that night suit, and then she zips herself up. And then she noticed a huge difference when she goes out. You know, what I do is I always imagine roots going out down into Mother Earth, becoming one with Mother Earth, and allowing Mother Earth to extract any and all energies. And then in turn, she goes up my feet, out through my head, and then she surrounds me with divine liquid white light. And that divine liquid white light surrounds me. And then I always imagine deflective mirrors just going around me where I could see through, but deflective mirrors deflecting and bouncing off any energies that is not a vibrational match to my light. So if you find that you're a super empath, like New to Haven just said, you know, every morning, you know, when you wake up, what you could do is take a few deep grounding breaths as you plant your feet on the floor. You know, again, imagination is creation. There's no right or wrong way of creating your shield. You know, so however you imagine creating your shield, that's how you do it. Okay. So it could be stepping into a bubble. You know, you can imagine your ancestors surrounding you in protection. You know, there's no right or wrong, you know, but to start, you know, just if you're not sure how to, you know, you can just imagine yourself stepping into a, you know, what I like to call a spacesuit, and you zipping yourself up, because spacesuits protect against intense, you know, energies that the body can't handle. So
yeah, no, that's real. I love it. And it's funny because I remember the first time I heard something similar to that, I was like, yo, I remember like mine is like my turtle shell. So whenever I get to a point or a position where I feel like somebody about to push me off the edge or make me want to knock everything over, I'll just pull all my limbs in. Like I you know, I visualize this in my head, like I'm literally like a turtle. Like I'll pull all my limbs inside the shell and then just let you do whatever you're gonna do, because long as I'm in the shell, you ain't gonna hurt me and I ain't gonna hurt you. So
I like that. I like that.
And then when the coast is clear, I can come on back out here and ease out and chill. Then I'll come on back out. That way you don't get hurt, I don't get hurt, and nobody get killed. So, that's real quick, man, real quick.
Thank you, JC Green. Thank you.
Yeah, we got some dope questions and comments. I'm gonna have to bring a couple of them to the floor because I know one of them, the birthday queen, Shade Tree Kisses. Happy born day to you. We appreciate you joining us, tapping in with us on your birthday. So we definitely want to show you some birthday love again on the screen and off the screen in the comments.
Happy birthday.
Yes, sir. So she says, if you connect with someone with a different clair than you, could that impact your energy in any kind of way?
That's a really good question. And so this is where my guides come in. No, absolutely not. You know, it cannot affect you in a different kind of way like that. If anything, sometimes if you connect with an individual, you most likely share similar psychic attunements, like gifts. So if you connect with someone who has a similar clair to you, maybe you guys have, you know, you might have like a dominant clair like that person does, you know, the same type of clair. So as an example, the way I'm getting it is like, you know, if you're that person is clairvoyant and you're clairsentient, right? You probably also have clairvoyance. If you notice, you might be more of a dreamer as well. You're more, my words, I am so sorry. You're more comfortable, or you connect deeper with the clairsentience than the clairvoyance, if that makes sense. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal answer. And then this one, I feel like I know the answer to this one, but I definitely put it to you because this is your specialty. As far as can your children inherit the clairs? Can you from your ancestors? Can I answer this one?
Absolutely, go for it. Sure.
So I would say absolutely 1,000,000,000% yes. Shade Tree Kisses, at least from my personal experience. I know, you know, both my grandmothers are very psychic and intuitive. both my parents, my mom and my pops are both very intuitive and psychic. So I feel like my gifts were naturally, hereditary. And then my children have the same thing. My brother has it. My sister, what I'm saying? So it's like, as far as I know, everybody that's in immediate proximity of my, from my ancestors to grandparents to parents to, multiple generations, at least 6, I think right now, I'm thinking we all have it. And I feel like it was, for me, I feel like it was passed down. What do you think, Millie? What's your perspective?
Well, everyone is born with, dominant, all the clairs, and everyone's born with a dominant clair. It could be multiple dominant clairs. So yes, everyone is born with it. So if you're talking about inheriting, if your children can inherit the clairs, absolutely. But, typically people are born with it. There's just many individuals are not born aware of it. Especially if it's organized religion or, a household that does not connect with something like that. That's where, not to go into a rabbit hole, but, you tend to see children more depressed or disconnected. And it makes it worse when they put them on like Ritalin. So crazy. I had this conversation with, I was doing a mediumships session earlier today, and she asked me a similar question about schizophrenia because I worked with 2 young one was 17 and the other one was 20 something, early 20s, that had schizophrenia and autism. And I believe, and both of their parents, you could tell they're deeply religious, right? But they needed something to help their kids, so they came to see me. And I do feel, and this is just my opinion, okay? Doctors, this is not a medical suggestion. I'm not a doctor, but typically if they're cut off or they're not encouraged to embrace their empathic nature or their gifts in general, because they're, children are born pure with one or more of the clairs heightened. And if the children are not encouraged to talk about it and to express it, and they get shut down, they start to internalize their feelings. And internalization, the way I always say, and the way my guides always say, it creates constipation. So you're constipating your energy. And so constipation is very uncomfortable, right? So with children, that will create depression or rebelliousness, or it can create restlessness, things like that. They're not able to sleep. And so they put them on medication to kind of help them, like Ritalin and things like that. But what that does, it calcifies the pineal gland, so it causes other disruptions, and it disrupts the nervous system. Completely disrupts the nervous system. Suppressing that energy disrupts already the nervous system. So I know I went down a rabbit hole. I apologize for that, but
no, I'm glad you did, because we got, matter of fact, the next comment I'm gonna bring up is going to literally tie right into that, and then I want to chime in on it too, because working in the community, right? When you do it as well, working in the community, especially when we're working in the schools with the youth and with the, whether it's from elementary to college, kids or whatever, children, what have you. There is a common theme that I've seen, and it didn't take me working in the schools or, working with children in public to see this, because I've also seen it in my own life and with family and close friends. But with you being able to have the gifts that you have and being able to have the spiritual posse with you at all times to get extra insight and clarification on things, where do you feel like the disconnect, and I'm going to bet probably everybody in the comments would agree with this, where do you see where the disconnect comes from when you're dealing with people who have children, and like, they can tell their child something that is for their benefit or something that's to help them or encourage them or whatever the case may be, but they won't listen to the parent. But yet I can come into the school and say almost the same thing, and they'll hear it from me, right? Or, I could say something to a child that I know or I raise or what have you, and they won't necessarily agree with it or listen to me, but their coach or their teacher or whoever else can say the same thing, and it'll resonate. Where do you feel like that kind of disconnect or that rebellious energy comes from when it comes to people listening to their genetic family versus someone outside who's just a part of the human family?
It's a rebellious, especially if they're connected, if it's a connected family member, there's definitely a subconscious rebelliousness. So they probably are holding, my guides are saying it's like it's a contractual lesson for that individual that won't listen to them.
Yeah.
So it varies with the individual, but typically it's like some type of rebellious nature, so it could be directly towards them or somebody associated with them. But when somebody else comes along, because I get it, sometimes like I said the same thing, but there's something about familiar, I can never say the word familiarity. There's something about that and the subconscious rebelliousness, like it's an ego thing. It's definitely an ego thing. And then when somebody else comes along, there's like a respect and an honor there. So really it revolves around respect, that subconscious rebellious nature, and the need to do the inner work when it comes to that type of selective guidance.
Spirit gave me a download as I didn't want to cut your wisdom, but it also came back to trauma, being trauma-based and trauma-related.
Absolutely.
Subconsciously, it could be something that we deal with subconsciously that's based off of trauma and that was from past traumatic experiences, but we may not even, I feel like this personally, I know it's happened to me, we may not even consciously realize what we're projecting or what we're channeling subconsciously, because the trauma is in the subconscious that that doesn't even resonate with us. So we're acting on an energy or an emotion that we're not even really truly cognizant of, because it's subconscious energy or a subconscious trauma that's kind of projecting that energy, right?
Right. It could be that, as an example, that particular family member, your cousin, suggested something, and then you come along, not your cousin, but the other person comes along, makes a suggestion, and they go with it. It could be the cousin's parent that wouldn't allow you to speak when you were 5 years old. And that was the source trigger of not listening. I don't want to listen to you. It's a subconscious connection to, like, I wasn't listened to. Wow. It's all psychological. All of this is psychology, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the most underrated and underappreciated skill sets, and when we talk about life and psychology, is emotional intelligence, right? Because that's something that there's nowhere in hell that the school was actually created for us to really learn. We're not learning about emotional intelligence. You're teaching me about trigonometry and all kind of other shit that I know damn well most people ain't gonna deal with ever in life as an adult.
I failed that twice. That was a waste of money.
Right, but what would you have been doing with that, with what you're doing? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't even use algebra.
How much more, I feel like, ready would you have been? How much, or so much sooner? And how much more layers of value do you feel like not only would you add to your own life, but to all the people who you serve's lives, if you were taught anything about emotional intelligence in school?
Right, exactly. I think, that's where the disconnect comes in within the school system. I am a huge advocate for, yes, you learn what you need to learn in school, but also add in the mind, body, spirit. The everything must come together. Canada does it. Other countries do it, but we don't do it. We teach that the mind, body, and spirit is all disconnected. There's no such thing. The body does not have intelligence. Our spirit, if that's what you call it, doesn't have intel. There's no such thing as spirit. They're just God and Jesus.
Facts. Yeah, for them. And I gotta bring this to the floor, because this is something that I think I may have shared this with you before too, but I never really knew why I had an affinity for people who, quote unquote, I don't subscribe to this school of thought, but for the sake of the message, special or special needs or whatever you want to call it. I don't agree with that, because I feel like, they are special, but in a whole different way from the way this society has labeled them. Because me personally, I've always had an affinity for people, because I always felt like they were like the disenfranchised, the picked on, the bully, you know what I'm saying? Like, because they were different. But the way I always felt it, and I didn't get confirmation of this until not too long ago, maybe 7-8 years ago, when I found out more about Obatala. But for me, I always stood up for him, and I always took it personal. Like, I don't even like people or allow people to use the R word around me, because I'm like, don't use that word, because I take it, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I'm saying? Because I just feel like that's people feeling like they're better than somebody. Like, you're not better than somebody because they have a condition or they was born a way that they can't control. That don't make you fucking better than them. I don't care who you are, what you got. So let's just pump the brakes and chill down with that, because they're humans too. You know what I mean? But for me, I realized, being a child of Obatala, it's because of, in his origin stories, like, he was responsible for people in the creation of humanity. And some of the people, when he wasn't doing his job the way he should have been doing it, were born with deformities or born with, you know, these different types of conditions. So he took it upon himself to be the patron saint, to always watch over and take care of those who, you know, were born in those types of ways. So now, like, wow, it didn't resonate with me. I never knew why I felt that way until I heard that story about him. Like, yo, that's nuts, you know. But I love it, because what I learned after the fact too is that those people are some of the most powerful spirits and souls in the universe, or the galaxy, the constellation, whatever. And they chose to come and play that role and to live that very hard, challenging life, because they're so far superior spiritually than most of the people who have a so-called regular body without the so-called handicap.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm
they're
saying?
definitely high, you know, ascended beings for sure. And
Right.
and I can use my personal story. When I was about 6 years old, I was a very fast learner, but it became a problem. So long story short, because there's a whole story there, they put me into a special education school because they felt that I had a learning disability. But my learning disability was I got bored.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm an old soul.
Yeah.
So I'm sure at 6 years old, whatever they were teaching me, I probably already knew. I was, you know, fully aware of it, and I just got bored. And so I would play with my imaginary friends,
Yeah.
you know. And so they put me in with the problem kids that, you know, now hindsight, they themselves were suppressed, you know, emotionally and spiritually. So their way of projecting was bullying, fighting, you know, all of these things. So the school system was very much messed up. But now hindsight, it was just so important to have, you know, caring, compassionate, and understanding therapists, which, you know, I was lucky to have. My mom was like, you know, confused. She's like, well, I don't know what I did with my daughters. She was like, you know, they were like, you didn't do anything. She's just highly gifted. She gets bored and she needs to get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of kids out there, and then including kids that may be mute. You know, I've met a lot of mute kids. Those kids to me carry a lot of wisdom and, you know, amazing spiritual gifts. You know, they're observant, they read, they probably see energy, you know, things like that. So
yeah, I remember way back in the day. I think this is before I even had Nino, but I was dating somebody that their child had autism, but to me, like, being around him and seeing him, there was nothing wrong with this child. The only thing that was considered wrong, or what people would say that why they labeled him that, I guess maybe the scores or whatever, but he didn't talk. Like, he didn't speak, but he can hear, he could write, he could draw. I mean, when I tell you this child was a genius. Like, the stuff that he was doing as a young person, it was stuff that people our age might not still be able to do today intellectually, or, you know what I'm saying, or engineering wise. Like, he just was brilliant. And it was just like, but because of the one that he didn't talk, I don't know to this day now. I hope he started speaking, because I knew, I just felt like in my spirit, he gonna talk. He just ain't ready to. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of like, you triggered that within me when you shared the story about being bored. I just feel like he's so far freaking gone with, you know what I'm saying, up there with the intelligence.
There's so many reasons. There's so many reasons, you know, that we can't, you know, get into in this topic. But, you know, I mean, children are just, you know, I work with children every single year doing sound healing meditations, you know, with the you know, the inner city children. And they connect so, like, that's listening, going into meditation, listening to sound healing, that's their comfort, that's their that's home, you know. And so that goes to show the purity of the children versus adults, because we come with, you know, experience, you know, and but they're very, very pure. And that's why it's so important to, you know, encourage their natural abilities, to let them know, you are gifted, or what's going on. Oh, you see, what do you see? What do you hear? What tell me about your dream that you had. That sounds very interesting. Because again, children are born with clairs that are a hell of a lot stronger than us adults, because we've had experience. Many of us did not embrace those clairs, until later on.
And a lot of us were programmed to not, not to not even like pay any, like pretty much to disown them. You know what I mean? Because that would make us then be like, the same way that they label, the people who come with challenges in the physical realm. And shout out to I saw a comment somewhere. I can't remember. It might be the one on the screen, but it was like that they learn in different ways. The majority have gifts as well. Absolutely. And I don't know who it was, but I had a show recently and we were talking about communication. Speaking verbally with our mouths is one of the lowest forms of communication in all of like the humanoid existence. Like in antiquity, we didn't speak with our mouths. We communicated through telepathy, through mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's how I communicate with animals. I do that with animals.
Yes.
Now. You know what
animals
I'm saying? So I know
communicate through. Yeah, my two cats, they stare at each other all day. And it's funny about telepathy, because I was doing again with the same mediumship session that I did to connect to my client's ancestors. There was a spirit guide that came through to her, and she was beautiful, floaty, and this woman she was a beautiful, gorgeous face, but it also had a dog face. Now it's hard to explain because her face was obviously human, but with dog features. And she was very flowy, almost like if she was in the water, but she wasn't. She was very flowy. And so what I told my client was, it seems like she's talking in telepathy, because her mouth is not moving. She's staring at me to give you information. And this particular entity was over 5,000 years old. And I got the number 5, so I could be wrong, like 5, it could be like more, but it was definitely like thousands and, years old, like she was in her lineage. She was part of the ancestors, but she was very floaty. And she only spoke to telepathy. So I told her, she said, that is so interesting, because I feel like I connect to people through telepathy myself.
Oh, I know you do.
So yeah, so we do, our lineage is telepathic. But language just became, it was part of the sound that we had to adopt in order to communicate, I guess.
Yeah, evolution. And there's stories that I'm not a Bible buff. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know a little bit about the story of the Tower of Babel.
Right.
Where, the world spoke one language, and then, when all that foolishness happened with Babylon and all that, and knocked it down, and that's how. So I do feel like there's some truth to that, because, like I said, this is not something that's far-fetched. We really did only speak, through telepathy, and there was shout out to, I think it was, I can't remember which comment it was, but they were saying that we can learn a lot from people with so-called disabilities. Yeah, I agree, and I do. I learn a whole lot. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But that's people without the ego, though. That's only the people without the ego, because people who have ego, that's another thing. But
I could definitely tell you that I'm on the board of a mental health care facility, because they do want to incorporate holistic measures, and it is promising that they are starting to integrate holistic measures, other measures besides, and to try, in conjunction with medicine, because strictly medicine,
Well, it's always, like you said, for whatever cause, there's always an effect, and they call it side effects. But that goes on the side of what might not be an initial issue that the so-called medicine is supposed to treat, but then it might possibly treat that one and then create another one on the side, like having a side chick, a side thing. Like, that's why they call side effects. Like that's a real
side
thing.
Effects.
For real.
And it's funny, because my guides, when I was teaching the class yesterday, my guide said, remind everyone that they're supernatural, super space natural.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's the amount of power that we have. We're super natural.
Yeah. That came up on the call. I don't know if it was the podcast or the private community, but that came up recently too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we are. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
I think it was the podcast. I want to say it might have been Wunam, either Wunam or IMG.
Well, look at that. It's all in the
Right.
ethers.
It's
all in the ethers.
Yeah, because I just remember like because wherever we were going, it led to talking about the show Supercell. And I was like, how genius the brother that wrote that series was to just the wherewithal to say, take the wordplay on sickle cell and to create Supercell. And to me, that he was talking about us being supernatural. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it was very powerful. And I can't wait till they drop the new series. Hopefully they do. But I heard they're supposed to bring a new one out. Okay, let me see. So I know we're getting close on time. Let me see if I can get a couple questions real quick before we get out of here. I see Shade Tree Kisses the birthday woman again. Says, what ways do you practice self-care to keep your clairs strong?
Absolutely. Very good question. Daily grounding. Okay, so the different ways that you can ground is meditation, as little as 3 minutes. Very powerful. As little as 3 minutes. Breath work. Okay, so it could be pranayama, breath work, or box breathing, or just, centering on your breath and breathing. You could do somatic movements like, qigong, tai chi, yoga, anything that will ground you. Okay, that will help keep your clairs strong. All right, and then anything, and also communication with self. All right, so if something is coming at you too strong, just say too strong. We don't need to do or say anything very technical. We can intend that's too strong. But self-care is a huge thing, and that'll keep your clairs strong. The key thing is not to be overwhelmed, to reduce any overwhelmed sensations that you may feel. Like, if you're clairsentient, if you feel too deeply, do more grounding exercises, to help, be able to decipher. And I'm using the example of clairsentience to decipher between, the feeling of overwhelm or the mental capacity, the too much mental chatter that leads to anxiety, and the actual, the energetic communication that you're receiving in terms of, the anxiousness in the atmosphere, if that makes sense. So just grounding yourself, getting to know yourself, being with you, which is practicing practicing oh my gosh,
just unplug
unplug, sorry with my words, but just being with yourself.
Yes.
Being intimate with yourself, meaning maybe having silence and just scanning you, getting to know your feet, your whole body, what you feel spiritually, just being with you. That is another way to keep your clair nice and strong, because you're able to differentiate what is not of you and what is for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, nah, it does. And you know what? I gotta. How much longer we got? Because I know we had a set time. We're supposed to. How much longer do you think we go?
It's okay. It's 10:05.
Okay, so I'll be quick. I won't go past 10:30. I promise, and hopefully sooner. But because I got a question something just came to me. And I still had like 5 or 6 comments started. I was hoping to be able to get to, but something just came to me because it's something that I know for a fact you've had experience with it based off of you being in the healing space a lot longer than I have, and I know I've experienced it as many times as I have. I know you have. So, what is the significance of us being willing to do the work? And what I mean by that is I had a very interesting conversation earlier today, and the conversation went towards or down the street of consultations or divinations, or just being a consultant, or better yet, let's just take the whole spirituality aspect out of it, or religion, and just say just being someone who is a consultant or a coach, somebody who is there to help somebody else to accomplish certain goals, or to set forth to achieve or pass certain milestones in their path or journey, right? So with you having a multi faceted or multi-dimensional gift with the way you're able to do it, right? how significant is it for us to do the work once we receive the messages or the insight from spirit? Because I've dealt with several people in the past where I feel like they will go guru shopping. You know that song 50 Cent, window shopping. Da, 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 da. There's people out here guru shopping. So they'll come to me, they'll come to you, they'll go to Wunam, they'll go to whoever, that's in our circle. And I'm just using us because the tribe knows, our circle. But then they get all this information, but they didn't take one leap of faith or one step towards the action. Where does that leave the person? Because I feel like a lot of times, sometimes we're relying more on the messengers to do the guru work and to do the work for us versus us just taking the message and then realizing, hell, I'm a guru. I'm the savior that's supposed to save me. Not nobody else up here or down there or from there. No, that's here inside.
We all have a higher self. We all have a divinity. That's the inner guru. And what it is that they are codependent. They don't want to do the work. They're extremely codependent, so they lean on you. And yes, if you are a light worker, a healer, a seer, things like that, you are going to absolutely encounter people to constantly be codependent on you. And it's your responsibility to reawaken the light or remind them, re-mind them who they really are. If they still do not take the information, then you step aside. It's their journey, and that's probably their karmic journey to learn how to be more, how to connect with themselves or their divinity. Yeah. And, it's really just stepping aside, because there are healers, seers, people in the spiritual community that I've personally had to let go, that they love that because they have egos. What's going on right now? Deepak Chopra, all these powerful spiritual figures are in the Epstein files.
Listen.
And to me, it's not so much that they're in the Epstein file, but these people looked up to them like the smartest gurus ever, and they're narcissists.
Like they were guys. Let me tell you something, Millie. I don't know if I think I might have, but if I didn't, let me do it anyway. I don't know if I ever told you how much I give you credit for me being me. And I feel like I've always been who I am. I never switched up on anything. However, I'm not going to front and act like in certain environments or certain situations or circumstances, I didn't kind of choose to present myself in a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. But watching you after we got connected and watching you on social media, I'm like, Millie, and I say this with the utmost love, respect, and endearment, but I'm like, Millie is an effing fool. You hear me? Like, it look, that's what it is to say that. I tell my pops this to his face, and he won't do nothing but laugh because he knows I'm saying it from a sense of endearment, just the foolishness that he's capable of. I feel like you're the same way, and I love it because people who was watching this show, they would never imagine some of the stuff that I know I've seen you post or heard you say or do. But I love it because you are unapologetically you, and that's how we all should be.
Yes. Listen, I tell people I am not a guru. I'm awakening the guru within you.
Yes, sir.
I am here to hold space for you while you elevate or you and I'm trying to find the words, while you merge into that self, that authentic self, right? I'm here to hold space until you get there. I always tell people, if you see me for more than 2 or 3 years, I'm not helping you. I'm not your person. I'm not your person. It's okay if you come to see me every now and then, because we all need like a little zhuzh. A little zhuzh, but not like every couple of months for the next 2-3 years. Like, I'm not doing the work, and I am incarnated in this time just like you are to help. We're light workers to help people get into alignment with themselves,
Yeah.
because we all have a blueprint. We all agree to experience, many things in this life that will throw us off course. And again, that's all part of the growth. That's the contrast that we need to experience in order for us to really, expand and get to know ourselves and to become stronger and, and utilize discernment. But a lot of these gurus, they're leeches. They really truly are leeches. Like Deepak Chopra, I thought he was pretty cool, but I never bought any of his books. As a matter of fact, I never bought anybody's books. If I was going to read a book, it would be through the library, because there's words in there. Remember, they're channels. There's the human aspect of them, and then there's the channel. Okay. And, that's the same thing with pastors. I used to be part of a Christian church, and the bishop of my church was an amazing speaker that reawakened, your inner intelligence, your inner guru, the words that he spoke. But the human aspect of him was horribly narcissistic.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're looking, and that is, that's claircognizance, as an example. So if you read certain words in the book and it resonates deeply with you, it's like a little drop. That's claircognizance. That means that it's to reawaken whatever it is that, that you need. So
it's to reawaken the aspect of you that is within that word or within that moment, within that message,
Right.
because that, and and I wholeheartedly shout out to, I gotta bring that one back up. Shout out to Chiking. I hope I'm saying it right. These conversations are so authentic. They need no apologies. Spirit got y'all flowing. Yes. But that's why I love doing this, because it's all about spirit. And I know Millie's word. Millie knows my word. Like we work with each other, for each other, all that good stuff. But it's like real recognize real. And I love and appreciate real more than anything else. And I don't give a damn if you're white, you're Asian.
No.
I don't care what you are. If you are real, that ranks way higher on the totem pole of respect from me, because that's what that's all I want.
And that's real sentience. People feel the fake.
Yeah.
People will feel the fake. I've encountered a lot of other spiritual people, and I always have the highest respect, and I won't, come out and say you're fake. Right? Maybe back in the day, Millie would, but I wouldn't come. But because I see and I respect the journey, because even those fake people, they still have a journey to learn.
Yeah.
So I respect the journey. I approach these individuals with discernment. Like I see you, but I see you as well, but, I am, one of the things I always tell people is, you're also meant to be human, just honor the human self, have a good time, enjoy, life, if you're empathic, if you feel everything, there's a tool for that. It's called intention.
Yes.
Utilize that intention to ground yourself so you can enjoy being human. If you want to travel, if you want to go out and party, if you want to see New Edition, which I will be seeing pretty soon, if you want to enjoy a good concert, but too many people, is too intense. You shield yourself. God, goddess, your divinity has given you tools so you can be human. Remember, this is one big, huge game board. It's a playground of experience. We're here to experience, whereas we can't experience contrast in the different dimension that we come from.
Facts. Yeah, no, that's real. It's the the polarities, man. The all in the all, the all in the all, the the one within the the all within the one. Like there's no separation. Like shout out to Professor Copper. He was just saying, like, when we talk about the atom or the atom, the atom, it's only one. There's one that split and replicated itself and just kept.
Isn't that aren't we amazing?
Level, all the way down to this a grain of sand.
Aren't we amazing? And there's people that are trying to control us, like we ain't shit.
Well, you see how that's going. Look, I didn't get into all my little notes because I got a lot of them. But listen, I got a lot in store, Tribe. I know the volume hasn't been as frequent, but there's a reason. And I'm not going to talk about it because shout out to Inky Johnson, man. I just saw one of his posts the other day. He was like, a cat can show you, what they're doing and the activity better than they can tell you, which we all know that. But I do believe in the message and the energy and the intention in that message. And it resonated within me. Just like you said, it spoke something on me. So I know I got a lot of stuff I can't wait to dump out but I'm just gonna wait till it dump out, you know what I'm saying, and just let it do what it do. But trust and believe, try. I got a lot that I can't wait, you know, to get with y'all and share with y'all, because it's a lot happening. So I'm like, yo, we gotta do a lot more, a lot faster, because you know the transformations, the elevations, the crystallizations, the ascensions, the intentions, all of it's here, and the detentions are too, because I just saw some so-called prince in England got arrested today because he was part of the files, but the whole damn thing is going down. The whole boat is sinking. The Titanic is gone.
My God,
fucked up. It's a wrap.
These are like rumors that are real. You know, like these are real. Like I remember these rumors when I was in high school that they're sucking kids' bloods and all this stuff.
Yes,
but see,
vampires.
You know,
yes,
it has to collapse.
Yes,
because you know this is not where we're supposed to be.
No,
you know, energetic, evolutionary wise, we're slow.
Yeah,
you know, and yeah, it has to crumble. It has to burn. You know, and this is where we are. So you got to fasten your seatbelt. Not only are we, you know, going through it all in terms of experience, but you know, in the cosmos is huge changes that has not happened in hundreds of years, I believe, thousands of years, and 60 years for one of them, which is like all the civil rights things, and you know, so we're in the middle of a very auspicious time, very auspicious. And so, but we're all here for a reason. Every single person that's watching this is a light worker. They're here. We're all here to anchor the light. And so we just have to, you know, while we're anchoring the light, just remember, you know, to enjoy life. You know, don't get overwhelmed. There's a balance. You know, go see New Edition. I am.
When they gonna be here?
No, they're not coming to Florida. We most likely will end up flying to Texas.
I got you. Hey, shout out to TX, man. Look, we got some tribe members been showing love in Texas, really all over, man. We got people from Nigeria, London, UK. You know, we doing some things, man. I'm proud of y'all, tribe. I'm very, very, very proud, like for real. And I'm grateful, like for real, because one thing I do know, excuse me.
Bless you.
There's always been, appreciate it. There's always been a target on the authentic. It's always been, you know what I'm saying? Always. So the light workers, the revolutionaries, the healers, the teachers, the griots, you name it, we've always been targeted. But we came here for a reason, and we ain't never really been scared. Like Bone Crusher said, I ain't never scared. You know what I'm saying? You know, so it is what it is. But I say all that to say, I'm so grateful to be someone who has the opportunity to be around other like-minded, authentic souls who know what it is and who came here, what needed to be done, when it needed to be done, how it needed to be done, against all odds, against all adversity, against all so-called false, fake-ass fear, false evidence appearing real.
That part.
Cause effect, trying to superimpose themselves as these so-called giants and whatever, like they really ran. But we see who running now, because there's only so much time. And I'm going to quote a song by somebody else who they say is in the files too, whatever. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. So I tell you what, that one bitch got 99 problems, and humility ain't now one of us bitch about nothing. So that 1% that thought they was controlling the 99, yeah, let's see how far that go for you.
You know, the 1%, the billion trillionaires, you know, there's no peace without heart. You know, you need the heart in order to have peace. So if you have a hard heart or no heart or a hollow heart, then you're never going to have peace. You're constantly root chakra dominant, meaning always chasing or chasing power. And there's no stability in that at all. There's no stability. You will never feel safe. You will never feel safe, ever, unless you have a compassionate heart. If you have money and a compassionate heart, guess what? You'll feel safe.
Yeah. But you know, the thing too, but even those people, and I've been blessed to have relationships with people who are very well off financially, who are extremely wealthy. But one thing I'm grateful to know is that the BS don't stop for them. Like, just because you got M's or hundreds of M's or maybe even B's, if you really are someone that you just described, Millie, the bullshit don't stop. at all. In some cases, it might actually elevate even more because you got more people who know or trying to keep, pocket watching or keeping score on whatever you got going on, to where they're gonna be, attacking more like parasites and fleas. So it's like, I feel like there's pros and cons to every role that we take. And shout out to cast, the world's a stage. We all must play our parts.
Well, that's where, the maintaining groundedness and authenticity, and, because, more money, more problems, right? So, I use like Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, Mackenzie. I actually, during COVID, she donated, I forgot how many millions of dollars to the small business, but I was approved to get some of that money, but she gave away that money, and she does it unapologetically, but I could imagine all the what's wrong with yous, and she's a woman, and things like that. But I believe people like that, and I know we're going in the rabbit hole here, but I can't think of his name, the old guy that's lived in the same house and goes to the same restaurant.
Warren Buffett. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, him. Yeah. I feel like they just shield themselves. Like it's a natural. Again, that's magic. That's the clairs, right? Yes. So they have these clairs, but they shield themselves. And I feel like it's an automatic shield. Now, remember, we also have ancestors that typically support us, especially when they see where we're going with this.
Oh, yeah.
Where we're going with especially if your heart is open. The heart chakra is huge. That's the seat. That's the seat, the soul behind the seat of the heart, right? And even those beings in the different dimensions, they see your heart. So of course they're going to shield you in protection, to keep you, remind you to stay grounded and things like that, but there's many people with money who have a very strong heart chakra, but it's those that are hard-hearted or hollow-hearted or root chakra dominant, in terms of imbalance, the root chakra, that is always chasing power and the almighty dollar. Those are the ones that are never at peace, and they will crumble and they will fail. They're building all these bunkers, still root chakra, still earth energy. What do you think Mother Earth is going to do to those bunkers?
Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda. I just had that conversation with Wunam on the air, right? And we laughed about it, especially she a mother like you. You already know both of y'all got similar, I ain't gonna get into that superpower ish. Anywho, so the mother's ish. So we had that conversation on air. Then I just had that conversation. I think me and Brandon was having that conversation the other day. And I laughed out loud. I literally laughed just like it's now worse, because it's like, how asinine is it? You are raping, pillaging, polluting, destroying damn near every aspect of this planet that you can get your dirty, frowsy, funky ass claws on, right? And then you got the audacity to try to so-called dig a hole, create some sort of unnecessary, unwarranted, unsolicited damage to the planet, the same mother, the same planet that has been the nourishment and the whole entire environment, ecosystem, you name it, that you've been on. And you think you're protected from her, from fucking you all the way to fuck up if she wants to?
Listen, Linda, listen.
Yeah, make that make sense.
That's disconnectedness. That's when you're disconnected from spirit. You make dumb decisions. People think that people with all these money are smart. No, they're not, because all of their smartness is when all of your governing meridians, when you're energetically sound and balanced, you're able to follow I'll use the example of the left and right brain, that you're able to, you have the left brain that understand the logistics of it. Then you have the right brain that follows the spirituality. When you operate in that type of balance, then you're able to, make sound decisions. But these people, they're dumb because they're totally disconnected spiritually. And when you're disconnected spiritually, you make dumb, rash decisions. And they're not smart. They're not smart, so.
Not at all. Not at all. Yep. And like I said, shout out to Professor Carver, because he said that too. He's like, family, listen to me. they're not that smart. They're not smart. They're not.
No, they may have all of this money.
That lasted longer than 500-600 years. We've been
Yeah.
here for thousands upon hundreds of thousands of years, literally.
Yeah. They're not smart, you know, and they, you know, they believe the almighty green and power is the key to their freedom, but they're constantly chasing.
Yeah.
That's how you know they're not grounded. They're grounded, yes, physically in the bunkers, but they're not grounded.
Yeah, that ain't gonna go too well for you. And look, you don't need a fortune teller to tell you that. I can tell you that. Look, look. That ain't gonna go too well. Because let's just think about it like this. Have you ever heard of these things called volcanoes? There's no way of possibly stopping a volcano from erupting. There are volcanoes that are under the water, that are under the earth, that are in the crevices of the. There's volcanoes all over the place. Oh, there's another thing. There's something called plates, some type of
the tectonic.
Those can move and shift anytime they want to, right? So that's, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not a scientist, but is that not called an earthquake?
Yeah. When it starts shifting, when the plates start shifting, it creates earthquakes, tsunamis, you know, all of those things. I mean, the weirdest things have been happening. Like New Jersey had an earthquake. That's extremely rare. So and I bring up that example because wherever they're trying to bunk, or this island that they're trying to create just for the wealthy people, right? This island, what makes you think you're protected from Mother Nature? Maybe people, but not from Mother Nature. You know, there's still karmic residue that must be, you know, processed.
They got a big ego, hey, yeah. They got a big ego. That big ego, man, like it makes you think, you know, you get a false sense of invincibility.
Right. And that's why inner work, shadow work is so important. If you go, because if you notice people that win the lotto, you know, they end up losing it all, or they don't end up right.
Yeah.
And that's because they're root chakra dominant. Yeah. You know, it's power. But if you don't do the inner work, if you don't do the inner work, what I like to call the shadow work, then I don't want to say you're doomed to fail, but you'll start going into cycles of discomfort, the same old cycles, you know, the same old blockages or different blockages, you know.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And shout out to DJ Kiko, man. Longtime tribe member, Patreon supporter, always in there showing love and support, but just a real dude, man. And bro came into one of the private Patreon calls a few months ago. And I know I told you on the call, brother, but I'm gonna tell you again, man, nothing but love and respect, because he literally exemplified everything that we're talking about. Like, he's like, yeah, you know, I haven't been around for a minute, family. You know, I know, you know, we have some things like, but I, you know, I ain't gonna put, you know, his whole business out there. But it was just, I respected it. I respect the hell out of it, because to me, that's everything that we're talking about. We're talking about authentic people. That's authenticity at its finest to me. And it's like, I fuck with that, because that's just a real person. Like, and I don't care about any of that status, none of that, because if you're real, you're real. And like you said, we feel authenticity. That's why Pac was who Pac is, because Pac, if you didn't feel that, you had to be an enemy. You either love him or you hate him. But
and he was also human. You know, he was also human. You know, like he would kick it, but then he was spiritually. I mean, he was out there. You know, I would have loved to, you know, sit. I probably still, you know, sit and have a conversation.
From what I hear, he ain't dead, and I've heard it from multiple sources that I can't question their credibility, because as far as what I know with them, they got they credit score sky high with me when it comes to credibility. So, you know, I've heard from several very, very reliable sources. I personally, even before I had contact or connections with some of these people, I wouldn't take the bet, because Pac is so brilliant, the genius that he has. If there was anybody who could have pulled that off, he literally would be the only person that I would say that I personally wouldn't be convinced either way. And I still to this day can't say that I would take the bet either way, if he was or he wasn't gone, because the way it all unfolded, this dude is a mastermind. You got to think, he was so-called 25, 26 when he so-called transitioned. But the level of intelligence and the significance of the impact that he made on the globe, there will come a million years plus, and trust me and believe, if the technology holds up, you'll never see another Tupac or Shakur. ever again, a million years from now. So if you ain't telling me that being ain't so far ahead of the curve in the class that they don't have the ability to do something like that, I'm not taking that bet. I ain't betting with you, because I feel like what he did do and what I saw, I feel like if anybody was capable, he won.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. And I see his light, you know, I see that within him. So I totally agree, you know, with that, you know, and also like, I believe that, you know, he had his faults, but he also checked himself.
Yes.
As well, in terms of his ego.
Yeah.
And I always say that it's so important to check yourself. Always make sure that you are grounded.
Oh yeah.
Always make sure, because you know, sometimes you get lost, you don't notice it, right? So it's so important to check yourself, and I've always seen him do that. He always checks himself and he stays humble. He stood humble, you know.
I mean, I feel like that those are two of the those are two very powerful superpowers: humility and accountability.
Yes.
Like those two things right there, just those alone, I feel like separates giants from regular people.
Absolutely.
Like anybody who is on the accord that they can look at you or myself or everybody up there, if they've touched millions of people in the world and call it how it is and say, you know, what it is, I respect that, because I know for sure they're looking at the man, shout out to Mike, the man in the mirror, and they telling them, you need to change your ways, and them ways ain't the ways we're going to be today. Now, we ain't doing that. I know I damn sure do it. And it's like
Michael Jackson is another one, I will say.
We can go on and on and on, because then we got
I know.
but and I'm here for it, but it's just like, but it's a real thing. But that's why they resonated and had a stronghold on the world the way they did, because the world knows what the world's seeing, hearing, and feeling. And just like you said earlier, real recognize real, because when you real and you're living your life and you're living it to the best of your ability without causing any disruption or intentionally fucking up nobody else's situation, you are living the life of the true child of the Creator, of a child of God. So therefore, if you're living that way and operating on that frequency, and I'm doing my best to live that way, I have to feel you, because it ain't just about what we see or what we hear or how we experience whatever the emotions that those people can paint the pictures to make us experience or feel. It's more about what we feel internally that makes whatever pictures they're painting feel so welcome, and for us to embrace those feelings, because that's a feeling that we know is a kindred feeling, because they have a connection to the all within the all, just like we have a connection to the all within the all. And that's why I feel like the 99% has already stomped and pretty much dismissed that 1%. And we're seeing it happen and manifest right before our very eyes. And we've been talking about it on this channel since April 8th of 2024. We've been talking the same talk, and we're seeing it coming.
And people, you know, who were chasing, oh, you know, he's a smart businessman, this, that, and the other, they're starting to recognize that ego does not rule the world. It can be destructive. So there's something within that individual that exists within them. And so it's making people check themselves. It's almost forcing people to do the inner work.
Yes.
You know, why did I make this decision?
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
No, that's a real thing.
No, you can't hide. You know, you can hide. Enjoy New Edition, by the way. Whoever said
that was, I think that Lady Night was the tribe going in. Y'all share some grace with me, because it's hard to keep up when everybody get ramped up. But they dropping them in there left and right. But I think I think Lady Walker and somebody else was saying enjoy the show. I think somebody might be at the same show you at too. I thought I saw it earlier. But yeah, no, that's real. New to Haven shadow work is so important. That's real, and it will change life. Like,
you know, and it'll reduce the blockages, and then any challenges that comes through, you see what it is. Like, you're able to translate that language, that experiential language, you know, as it pertains. You can see, okay, now I see what you know I need to understand about the situation. Your response will be different when a challenge comes up. You know, when you do the inner work, you have a more elevated understanding of the experience. Plus, your energy is no longer constipated, right? This is what I call it. So you're able to manifest and be in alignment with the things that you desire. Facts. You know, so
yeah, I gotta excuse me, I gotta bring a message up real quick, because shout out to Emperor Truth. He had put a post up a while ago. I didn't get a chance to share. Like I said, I was trying to star a few of them to hold off till we close it out. But He said they have the one. This was back when we were talking about like people guru hopping or yaya hopping, baba hopping, whatever. Like looking for activity and taking action in all the wrong places. Now, not saying that getting the message is wrong, but once you receive the message, where do we go from here? What do you do with the message is what, that kind of sparked that question for me to give to you. And then after that, I remember seeing his comment. I started because I wanted to bring it to the floor. He said they have to want it for themselves. I turned 58 yesterday. Happy belated birthday, brother.
Happy belated birthday.
I shaded that, man. Happy belated birthday to the king and the queen, because we had two of them that had birthdays today and yesterday. So shout out to both of y'all. Enjoy them solar returns, and I look forward to you getting another 58, Emperor Truth. And I'm not sure how young you became today, Miss Tree Kisses, but happy belated birthday to you. Happy birthday to you as well. But he was saying, like, you got to want it for yourself. He just turned 58 yesterday. And he's in Billy Carter's Shout Out to Forbidden Knowledge. The Academy completed his certificate course in the Kemetic Shamanism and 34 modules of Kundalini on my own. It's
nice. Congratulations.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. That right there, like 58. I'm not sure how young you are, Millie. I ain't gonna ask, but I know allegedly some people said I was like in the middle of my 40s. I don't know how true that is, because I personally think I'm be like middle of my 20s maybe. But they said, whoever they is, said I might be in the middle of my 40s. However, I still know I'm willing to learn every day. I'm still trying to learn and study and grow. You know what I'm saying? Just, learn something new. So
I'll be 99 and probably still learning. Now I'm learning. I've been leaning more towards metaphysical science, the science part, so I can understand more on the science end, and also psychology, understanding people. But I feel like my clients and the people I encounter teach me psychology by me observing them, just seeing them as a whole and understanding. So people teach me, because I always feel like, when you encounter experiences, people, places, even, there's always learning tidbits there, so I'll always continue learning, especially when it comes to science, and things like that. So
no, that's a real thing. Same here. Like I'm a self-proclaimed, proud, self-professed nerd, man. I always have been, always am, and always will be a nerd. I'm proud of it too. Because I like to learn. I like to study. I like to read. I love to learn. I love to read. I love to study. Hell, you saw the G-Wagon. G-Wagon gone, man. I had to put her on the market. She gone now, but you saw her. And shout out to Zimmy, because I was talking to her earlier, and I was telling her how that's one of my projects where I buy fix and flip some of those projects or whatever. But it came up because I was like, I never in my life did any type of like home renovations, mechanical work on vehicles, none of that ever. But here I am in my mid-40s allegedly, and I learned how to do a lot of that stuff for the first time. You know what I'm saying? Like I learned how to paint cabinets and fix drywall, and you know what I'm saying, like switching out lights and all kind of stuff, man. I ain't never did before in my life, but YouTube University, made it a possibility, and I did the work. I sat there like the nerd. I watched the videos, you know what I'm saying? Saw how I'm like, if they can do it, shit, I can do it too,
Well, so, I don't buy clothes anymore. I make my own clothes now, and I upcycle YouTube University, and I make my own shoes, just for me. So and that's another thing. Creativity also strengthens the clairs.
Yes.
So creative work, those are all meditative. So anywhere from cooking, gardening, any type of creativity enhances your clairs. To answer that question, it just hit me. Whoever was asking about, how to strengthen your clairs, I believe it was. Creativity is a form of meditation as well. So like painting the cabinets, stepping back, looking, observing, that strengthens the clairs. You have the clairvoyance. You can see. Clairvoyance is almost like a really good example outside of dreams and actual visions of people, right? Clairvoyance is almost like if you close your eyes and you can imagine what your kitchen looks like. And you're walking through your kitchen, you see where the faucet is located, where your dishwasher, if you have one, is located. That's kind of like the clairvoyance. That's an indication of clairvoyance. You're able to see the picture of it. That is an example of what it feels like to be clairvoyant. So when you step back and you look at, in your case, okay, you know, looking at this cabinet, you know, what color will I paint it? You're kind of like seeing what color would look appropriate, you know, or what you know, knob to put on there. You know, when I'm upcycling my existing clothes, I put the clothing on my dress form. I look at it and then I know, I just can see it. So that's where the clairvoyance comes up, you know.
Man, that's a beautiful thing. You know what's so dope? That's real. That's exactly how that project came about too, doing just that. But I'm gonna tell you how even doper and even more real I feel like it is, especially now, is just this week. What's today? Friday? I'm not sure what day it was, but it was after the eclipse. It might have been yesterday. If it wasn't yesterday, it was Wednesday. But anyway, just this week, I was having a conversation. I couldn't remember something. And that's been something that has been trying to be a challenge for me for the last couple of years. And some people will say because allegedly I'm getting older and all that. I'm not getting older, first and foremost, to y'all people. Okay. I'm getting seasoned and matured. Okay. I'm getting seasoned and matured.
Facts.
But you know, but I'm grateful for that too. If you want to call me, I'm grateful because I got a lot of classmates and friends I grew up with who are not here no more. So shout out to y'all and you about to know. So, but all that to say that it's been a challenge sometimes with like remembering certain things, certain words. But the other day I was in a gridlock where it was like I was trying to tell a story and I couldn't remember a word. And I got so mad that I'm not going to my phone. I'm not looking this shit up. I'm going to figure it out. And I sat there for a minute and paused and just shut up. And I looked in my mind, it almost like made stuff start flipping like a Rolodex. I'm going to get this goddamn, and I'll be doggone, boy. In a certain amount of time, I was able to snatch it down. Just like you said, the droplets, whatever. I was like, I'm not going to that phone. I'm going to get it the organic way that I know, being a child of the creator, I can make this happen. And it goes back to believing and doing the work. Damn it, you're going to come down and give me what I was trying to say.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that's where we are now. The super cells are now supernatural.
That part. Yes, the super cells are supernatural.
Yes,
absolutely.
All right, Miss Millie. I know we went way past the time, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here because I know it's a ton of other ones that I'm gonna have to try. I'm gonna have to ask for grace. Hopefully, I can get y'all's questions in on the next one because I already went way past my time. But I definitely give gratitude and thanks. And I want to share one last comment. Shout out to Kashita. Says, imagine the clear experience through an autistic child's point of view. I tell you what, I've had meditations that I'm pretty sure they might experience things like that all the time, Kashita, but also I've never done plant medicine. We've had several people on here who are definitely well established and very distinguished in that space. It's something I am interested in, but I have to do my due diligence and my research and make sure that it's the right fit for me. But I would imagine that those who have had those experiences, ayahuasca, certain, you know, what is cyber something cell, I forgot what the name of them, but anywho.
Well, there's like mushrooms, like different psychedelics.
Yeah, psychedelics, but it's another word they use to Safen or somebody don't know it. But anyway, I say all to say I've heard like some of the, I won't call it a trip, but some of the trances that they've experienced. I've heard that people have had some very profound experiences, you know, by having those types of encounters. So I would imagine that people who have those special abilities, Kashita, I think every day probably is a special like trance, like, you know what I'm saying, like special astral projecting type of experience, because like I said, they're much more spiritually advanced than we are. And think about how advanced you got to be to come into this world knowing how ratchet this world is or was, to, you know what I'm saying, to set yourself up. That's a crucifixion waiting to happen. So you signed up to come.
They definitely agreed to incarnate with, you know, because Dr. Cynthia, who's one of my dearest friends, who's a psychiatrist, who is also a spiritualist, and her daughter is autistic. Like, she's in a nursing home, but what she does is she attunes oh my gosh, stuffed animals. She attunes stuffed animals with a modality that's called integrated energy therapy that works specific with archangels. So she works with archangel energy, and she attunes these stuffed animals. And how she knew it worked is because she attuned one of the stuffed animals, gave it to her daughter, and it brought peace to her daughter. So I think they're very hypersensitive to frequency, to energy. And attuning, whether it's through that type of modality or even Reiki or prana or any of the energy therapies, any of it, you know, attuning something and giving it to someone who's autistic or hyper, giving them the stuffed animal or a blanket or a pillow and attuning it with energy. Remember, energy imprints. So when you recalibrate the imprint with, intentional energy, that will help calm them down or to heal or to feel that sense of comfort, you'll see the difference. It'll tone down or lower the volume of that, intense, the intensity that they might be feeling.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's so funny. Spirit kind of gave me a download just now. It reminds me of, and I'm sure the tribe can chime into this too, like young children who might have anxiety or, just have whatever the case may be when they're babies or toddlers, but they have a certain coping mechanism. So shout out to a family member, I won't name her because they're a teenager now, and I don't want them, coming after the old man. But anywho, but one of my family members, when they were little, they had a blanket, like Linus from Charlie Brown, where that was that was their coping mechanism. So they would always, anytime people was like shit kind of got a little hectic, just start rubbing the blanket. And it, to me, it's so amazing how spirit works. To me, now that I look at it in hindsight, I'll never forget how fascinated I was with Furious Styles when he was rubbing his those meditation balls. I forgot what they're called.
Yes, they are the meditation balls.
I gotta set it up.
I remember because there was somebody in the school I attended that used to have the stress balls. Yeah. There's also like it's martial arts. They do that in martial arts. Yeah.
And they chime too. Like the ones I got, they chime. So it's like they're almost like sound bowls in the balls, because each ball is almost like its own sound bowl. So when I do it, they're chiming, but it does work. Like it's very, very, very therapeutic.
And remember, we have this is the 11th chakra. Our hands are the 11th chakra, which is energy transference. So, we also hold a lot of, think about the whole body is in the hand. Yeah. So when you're doing that, you're stimulating the different meridians. And balancing. So
shit, that's what's up. Yeah, no, that's powerful. Shout out to Jay McDonald, man. I heard you made it out to the event out there with SEG and I think it was Saudi, if I'm not mistaken, man. Appreciate you showing them love. I definitely got word back. Like, yeah, some of the tribe was at the event. Go ahead, man. That's what's up. So yeah, we definitely doing some things, tribe. I appreciate y'all from every state, every city, every borough, every county. Yes. We definitely show nothing but love. Speaking of which, shout out to brother Super Floribert 2913. Great evening, family watching from South Africa.
Ooh, bless.
Building. What's good with you, man? Appreciate the love and support, family, for sure. That's what's up. Well, Millie, I know I held you long enough. I had a few more things I wanted to share with the tribe real quick before we get out of here, so I don't want to hold you hostage. If you got to go, I get it. If you have a few, that's cool too. You let me know how you.
I hang out a little bit. I'll listen to.
Well, I tell you what. Speaking of spirits, somebody was saying, shout out to Chiking, said, I'm absolutely learning so much from my own research. Spirit is powerful. We have been conditioned to listen to many voices before we trust that spirit. The spirit has given us for our supernatural download. That's, man, you talk about facts. Like, yeah, that's real, man. And I want to share something that literally kind of goes into exactly what she was just saying. So yesterday, I was doing some research on a project that I'm working on that I should be sharing with the tribe tomorrow, Sunday for sure. But in doing the due diligence of the research, I somehow stumbled upon this ancient American warrior who the alignment and the synchronicity was so profound, but that's what Spirit's been doing. I wanted to do a video yesterday because yesterday was the 19th. My family screenshot this, just have receipts. But yesterday was the 19th, and the Spirit led me down this rabbit hole to do the research. And I came across the term, and for all my American people here who know their history and know, about the ancient history before 1492 and all the other foolishness, y'all probably would know about this. But I came across this term called a Kawak, K-A-W-A-K, or it could be spelled C-A-U-A-C. But it has several meanings depending on the culture or the linguistic context. However, it's commonly known as a significant day in the Mayan calendar. So the 19th day, it symbolizes this warrior god or deity that is a representation of storms, rain, thunder, and lightning. And is very, very, all these elements are very, very closely affiliated with this particular warrior deity named Kawak. I somehow, someway found an extremely powerful, direct, I mean, absolutely direct alignment and correlation with another deity for those who are familiar with the Ifa Orisha Isheshe pantheon, who goes by the name of Kaguo Kabiesi Shango. So when you talk about this Mayan deity, the Kawak, his day is the 19th, right? And that day is a day of like communal work, like, you know, pouring into the community. Like, it's powerful. So I got some research here. I can't wait to share and make a video about it. But it was a powerful alignment and correlation to Shango. Mind you, I have never heard of this. And shout out to Wunam Nikki Love. I think she just came through in the building. She might actually know more about this Kawak deity. But yeah, he sounds just like Shango. Deity, I mean, all the warrior, connected to the ancestors, is considered to be tied to the elements of thunder and lightning and storm. Like, yo, so it was powerful. So I say all that to say that wasn't a coincidence that, you know, that spirit dropped that on me yesterday, which was the 19th. And then today we have this phenomenal episode on the 20th, which is a Friday. And Friday is a special day for me. But yeah, and the 19th is a special day for Wunam and for Mr. Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X, who's looking right at me like this right now. So I just thought that was a very powerful divine alignment. So I'm gonna do my research on this Kawak, and I hope that you know, y'all are here to see the show when it comes up. Family, those who are here, I appreciate you, King. I appreciate both of y'all. That's what's up. But yeah, with that being said, that's what I want to share, Millie. So I'm done. And if you got anything you want to leave the tribe with before we do this thing again, it's all yours.
Well, peace and blessings, everyone. Just continue to stay grounded. You know, every morning as you plant your feet on the ground, just imagine roots growing out of your feet, or imagine yourself stepping into a protective suit, okay? If you tend to feel overwhelmed, which, you know, with so much going on, I mean, it's inevitable. Definitely ground, do things that you enjoy. Anything that brings you joy and peace is a form of grounding as well. But I want you to also intentionally ground. So piggyback with intentionally grounding. So get into something creative, you know, whether that may be, you know, cooking and not using a recipe book, but throwing in your own ingredients. That's actually working some of the clairs, right, that we were discussing. You know, get into creativity, you know, be out in the garden, be out in the dirt. Earthing is so important and it's huge. Earthing reduces inflammation. You know, ever since they discovered rubber insoles in the 1950s, it blocked Earth's magnetic rays from, you know, going through the soles of our feet. So we're not being fed, you know, from Mother Earth when we're wearing rubber soles. So earthing is so important. But also, if you can't earth, you can always imagine yourself, you know, grounding into earth. You're getting that same experience or the same energies from earth. So, you know, walk outside, but also more importantly, just be human, enjoy life. You know, we need the balance of joy, you know, amidst the chaos that's happening, you know, outside of us and also within us. You know, remember, there's a lot of detoxification. And, you know, I always say whatever that's going on with the world, I mean, we're, you know, individually experiencing our own different transformation and changes or deaths. So just, you know, breathe through it, journalize, meditate 3 minutes, you know, but understand that all of this will pass, you know, and yeah, you know, and I'm so grateful, Orisha Bemi, for you having me here. So, and life doesn't have to be so hard, I promise. Our perception of life is what makes it hard.
Facts. Big box. Big box, big man. Big box. Yeah, no, that's real. And this just came to me too. It reminded me of a quote that Spirit gave me when I wrote my first book, Tips, and it was something along the lines of circumstances do not make us, they reveal what we are made of.
That part. That's the mirror. That's the mirror. Yep.
They reveal what we're made of. So in hindsight, I look at it now, you know, that was like 2016 when that book came out, 2017. So 2016 when I wrote it. But that was me coming out of one transformation of shedding skin, you know, going through a very hard time. Very hard time. And hell, sometimes I'd be going through hard times when I'm on the show. I'm not going to let that slow me down because I know that this show is bigger than me. It never was about me. I'm grateful for having the opportunity to be the messenger. But that's all I ever been. I ain't never been nothing more than that besides just being the person to channel the information and to help ask questions to people like Millie, who channels the information on a whole nother level. But I say all that to say that, this is unfortunate and what looks like a tough circumstance that we're living, people. But Tribe, listen, it ain't harder than us. We just go harder. Period.
Oh, and my guide said one more thing. I am so sorry to disrupt you. They're also saying stay connected, meaning stay connected to your ancestors, stay connected to your spiritual team, and definitely stay connected to your divinity. They're saying that meditation is so important.
I say. Oh, well, I tell you what, this is what I'm gonna do. Shout out to the tribe. Appreciate all the love, support, family. Everybody's still coming through, dropping the comments, dropping the support, dropping the love. I appreciate that. And I'm gonna drop this on the way out. So I want to give thanks again to you, Millie, for taking the time to join us and dropping jewels as always.
Thank you for having me again.
It's an honor and a pleasure. My regards to the king. Shout out to my boy Tom. And then with that, somebody in the tribe earlier gave a shout out to who is now an ancestor. So rise in power, the great ancestor, Sir Neely Fuller Jr. I want to quote him from his book, The Compensatory Counter-Racist Code, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, by none other than the great Neely Fuller Jr. Very, very powerful piece of work. But reading this work is what inspires some of what I'll be sharing with y'all coming up soon, Tribe. But to quote Sir Neely Fuller, and shout out to whoever brought his name up in the comments, that's what triggered this thought for me. He has a quote in the very beginning of the book, and this is just for the sake of research. It says, if you do not understand white supremacy, parentheses, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will confuse you. And that's a preference. And then I'm gonna share this one last one, and then because this is the one that really inspired the work that's coming soon, family. So, to the best of my knowledge and understanding, the basic essential or initial requirement for establishing justice among the people of the known universe is to first eliminate the practice of racism, formerly known as white supremacy. All people in the known universe, both skilled and unskilled, who have attempted to establish justice and or have attempted to eliminate racism, the system formerly known as white supremacy, have so far failed. Therefore, as a victim, and I'm going to say with all due respect, Sir, Mr. Ancestor Neely Fuller Jr., we are now victors of racism. The non-white person, and as one who is both subjected to and a participant in the overall support of injustice, I intend to use what knowledge and understanding that has been given to me to help produce the correct procedures for eliminating racism, the system formerly known as white supremacy, and replacing it with justice, balance between the people, the Honorable Ancestor Neely Fuller Jr. With that, Baba Neely Fuller, I give thanks to you, and I give thanks to the laws of Ma'at, the 42 laws of Ma'at, of freedom, justice, principles, reciprocity, and so many more. I got to give thanks to the Honorable Sky God of Thunder and Lightning, Obakoso Baba Shango Kabiesi, yeah, we're here now with them lightning bolts striking down all the enemies in a split second. I think we got it covered, Baba Fuller. We're gonna get y'all there. We coming to the promised land, and we coming in the body, and we coming to meet y'all. So with that, I give gratitude and thanks to you, Millie, to the whole tribe who came through. We'll see y'all on the next episode, family. I think we're back tomorrow night for a Saturday Night Live, but I definitely let y'all know soon. But thanks again, Millie. I appreciate you. Look forward to make it happen again.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yes, man. Honor and pleasure. All right, tribe. So we'll see y'all very soon in the very near future. This has been another episode of African Spirituality Experience. I'm your host, Arisha Bami. Shout out to Millie Cruz-Reynoso, founder of Millagro Wellness. We'll see y'all on the next episode, family. We out. Peace. Who that was?
ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé ṣàpò ìyàgbọ́ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo ṣe ní gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ forsake not your ancestors and praise your